Interpol to help track down the 1994 Rwandan genocide fugitives. Kagame was speaking during the opening of the 84th Interpol Annual General Meeting in Kigali yesterday. The meeting will, among other things, discuss transformational crime and how best to tackle it.
Police chiefs are in Kigali. At least 640 police bosses drawn from more than 145 countries are attending the four-day Annual General Assembly.
L'admirable capacité de résilience.
In our globalized environment, a threat for one of us constitutes a threat for all of us, and international cooperation is essential for each and every country to guarantee its security.
International police cooperation must cultivate innovation into its strategic development. In a dynamic world with constant change, brought about by complex threats such as those of cybercrime.
For Rwanda, Interpol is relevant in helping bring to book perpetrators of the 1994 genocide, in which at least 800,000 people were killed.
Many more of these fugitives are still at large, and we will have to continue working with Interpol and the international community to ensure justice is done.
The meeting comes at a time when African nations are dealing with increased cases of transnational crime, especially terrorism, drugs, and human trafficking. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kigali, Rwanda.
East Africa correspondent Sarah Kimani joins us for an update from Kigali in Rwanda. Sarah, good evening and thank you so much for joining us. Now, first things first, how widespread are these fugitives on the continent and elsewhere? And what sort of justice is looking to be meted out?
Well, it's interesting that you ask that, because it has become increasingly difficult to know who is where. But what Interpol is that by 2001 it had issued red alerts for at least 23 fugitives and has managed to nab at least 9 of them. Now, what happens is that sometimes they will be spotted in different countries. Take, for example, one of the most wanted performers of the genocide, Felician Kabuga, for the longest time was known to be in Kenya, and the Rwandan government and the Interpol and international community would point out that he had been spotted in Kenya. The Kenyan government, however, never managed to catch him. Then you will find in other countries, in Europe and other African countries, they have mentioned other names that people who have been found there. Some of them have been arrested as far as Europe, others here in Africa, but it is not clear where most of them who are still at large are hiding.
Sarah, is there any update on the arrested perpetrators to date, and how is the prosecution unfolding?
Yes, what we know now is that since the red alert was issued, where there were 23 most wanted suspects, at least 9 of them were arrested and prosecuted, and many more are still facing charges. The net being cast wider. When we are here in Kigali today, we attended we visited one of the border posts with the Democratic Republic of Congo, where Rwanda is working with Interpol to set up technological systems where they are able to track everybody who comes into the country or who is living in the country, and they're able to see whether they're on the wanted list. And this has helped us to track some of the people who they were looking for all this time. However, many more still applied, and this is the worry of President Kagame, that is, now it's more than 25 years since the genocide. The time is fast running out, and it is clear that some of these people may eventually escape justice.
Now, Sarah, let's look at the case that was recently dropped against Father Wencelas Munye Shakaya, a genocide perpetrator. Why was he released? Well,
sometimes, like we are saying, time runs out and evidence is not concrete, and sometimes the prosecution is not able to, present case well. And these are the disappointments that the Rwandan government has expressed all this time. And sometimes compare what they have been able to do here in the country with the Gacaca courts, which is a traditional form of reconciliation and bringing the people together, and also being able to bring people to justice in their own country, and what the international courts or the international community has been able to do. Sometimes they have been led down by the international community by not being able to bring perpetrators to book. And so the case of the father is one of those cases. The Rwandan government felt more could have been done to pin him down and to bring him behind bars.
Now, Sarah, under the 1948 Genocide Convention, the international community is obliged to act once genocide occurs anywhere in the world. How is Rwanda planning to engage non-compliant countries in this regard?
Well, Rwanda has been very silent, and sometimes probably because for the longest time thought that the international community and indeed other countries looked the other way as the genocide took place, the 100 darkest days of their life. And so sometimes they have to, speak like how President Kagame did during this meeting. Sometimes they speak to countries to cooperate with them. We know many times when the President and officials from the Rwandan government or from the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda have traveled to countries where they believe that fugitives are hiding and tried to speak to government officials, to track these people down and arrest them. Most of the time, they have not had the power maybe to, put more pressure on these governments. Most of the time, they have to use, word of mouth, try to convince them. But in most cases, and especially in African countries where these people are hiding, it has been very difficult to bring them to book. And according to officials from the ICTR, sometimes it's because they have oiled the hands of the authorities in those countries where the fugitives are believed to be hiding.
Thank you, Sarah. And that was our East Africa correspondent, Sarah Kimani, joining us on the line from Kigali in Rwanda.